Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I have 3 books that I want to speak to you about. And this is one of those conundrums where there's books that have received... Let me start again. There's a book that's received a fair amount of play that I'm not that crazy about. There's a book that I thought I would really like that I'm not crazy about. And then there's a book that I picked up on speculation that I had really low expectations on, and I really liked it. So, loop-de-loop time. I'm going to start with the book that I think is getting a fair amount. Well, you know, I don't watch enough BookTube to know whether this is getting a lot of BookTube time, but I think that in the world of new releases and so on, just trying to look, 2024, this is Playground by, let's see if we can do that without a glare. Playground by Richard Powers. This is my first time reading Richard Powers. He is a winner of the Pulitzer Prize for The Overstory. And a friend of mine from one of the book clubs has read this, you know, like on her own, not as part of one of the book club readings. And she was curious about the ending, whether there was anyone who was interested in reading the whole book in order to discuss the ending. And I thought, well, I'll give it a shot, just, you know, be friendly. And I didn't love this book. Okay, so first of all, it's under, a lot of it takes place undersea, but you can tell by the cover. So that's, we've got the coral, but we've got a manta ray there. And one of the characters that we meet early in the book is she starts out as a very young girl, and her father has given her one of the prototypes for I guess they call it the aqua lung, but it's lung, but it ends up becoming the devices that they use for scuba diving and that whole oxygen apparatus. So she's quite young when she tests it in a swimming pool, and she's the youngest person to ever use it, but also her dad has done this more as a confidence building exercise. She doesn't know that. She thinks that she's part of the scientific discovery about how an aqua lung works. So it's a life-changing event for her. She survives and goes on to become a fairly famous marine biologist. And her interests are wide, and she's in that sort of Jacques Cousteau time where, because of the ability to use scuba diving equipment, just this whole world is opening up. So today we still have that world opening up because technology has allowed advancements, but this is the early days. And so she becomes sort of the Jane Goodall of marine life, and brings forward all kinds of really interesting research over the course of her career. We meet her sort of periodically, where this book does one of those points of views. I think of it as those lines that you see in hospitals where one's going kind of like this and another one's going, another one's doing this. So I feel that's how this book was crafted. So we get really intense periods with one character, and then we don't see them for a while. Then we get other characters that are a bit more like this. And I think this is a fault in the book. What is the plot? I'm not 100% sure. Because we spend so much time with certain characters and we see the development of either their career or their lives, the plot gets lost. And we have an island in the middle of the Pacific that like a mega conglomerate has decided they want to more or less purchase this island, although it's independent, but they don't have full autonomy. So I guess it's like a colony in a way. And this company wants to use their port as a platform to create floating cities. And so previously this island had mining take place, and it had devastated the island, and the island has come back. The growth has returned. The sort of the infrastructure that wasn't needed has fallen by the wayside. So it's a poor island, but it's rich in the sense that they don't have a whole lot of pollution or modern problems, I guess. So the island has to decide on whether they want this conglomerate to come in and take over their island, because is it going to be financially a good thing, or is it going to be a case of they are the last people to receive any kinds of benefits from this project? And what about the environment? And so I think there are about 89 people on the island, and everybody who can sign their name gets a vote. And so we've got 6-year-olds voting, and the time on the island is very fun. The characters, I loved all the characters on the island, and they all brought something forward to this dilemma, from the young kids who are just, one's very excited about it, and another one is very much an introvert and just, like doesn't want strangers on the island. So we get all these different perspectives of what it's like to allow strangers to come into your tight community. And at this moment when this vote is taking place, the young girl is now in her 90s, and she has sort of the last thing that she wants to accomplish in her life that is going to, it's going to be sort of the pinnacle of her communication to the world about how the ocean is worth saving. There's other characters that come in that sort of bridge the gap between North America and this island, and their friendships that have fallen apart. All of that's okay, but we spend so much time with a character at a moment in the book that by the time you move to the next character's point of view, I just kind of had forgotten that they were even there. It's like not just one chapter, but multiple chapters that we spend with character A or character B. So I found this structurally to be not an enjoyable read. I found each character to be really interesting, except for one. And I felt that as an overall kind of collection of points of view, by the time we get to the ending, I didn't think the ending was particularly logical or even desirable. It's not that bad disaster stuff happened, but it didn't make a ton of sense with all that we knew about the characters going into it. So I haven't told you a ton about the book. As I say, I found the plot line hard to keep hold of. If you really like characters, if you really like oceans, if you like islands, if you like relationships that have a lot of tension in them, good tension, but also the opposite, this might be the book for you. I think if you love underwater exploration, the parts where we are underwater are truly well drawn, really beautifully, beautifully drawn. Now, I'm a person who likes their water in a glass or in the shower. I'm not even 100% convinced about swimming pools. And so as a non-marine lover, it's a beautiful book. I really, truly, the author is quite eloquent on that. And as I say, the parts that take place on the island are also really well drawn. Authors don't do this very much. Quite often they will do linked short stories, but sometimes I wonder if linked novellas might be a thing to consider. Obviously, Richard Powers has felt that the points of view of the different characters are really worth spending time on, but just structurally, he won the Pulitzer Prize, and I'm telling him how to structure his books. Well, there could be a problem in that. Okay, so I think it's a great book for other people. The second book that I started to read was entirely a result of loving Cold Comfort Farm. I found that Cold Comfort Farm was really entertaining. She's got a very swift pen. She knows how to write a zinger, and it's not until you've got a couple of words past it that you think, oh, that was pretty good. And she also has got a really good way of creating the environment that the characters are taking place. that doesn't make sense. That was a bad sentence. Setting is well crafted. So as a result, I thought, oh, let's see what else Stella Gibbons has written. So I went online, and she has a total of 4 books. And so my library only had one of the 4 books. And this is called Enbury Heath. Sorry, again, like glare. Okay, Enbury Heath is the story of 4 siblings. Mom has died about a year ago. Dad has just died and has left this convoluted inheritance to one of the siblings. Dad was, you don't want him as a dad. So we've got the 3 siblings. The eldest has inherited whatever there is to inherit, and it's somewhat encumbered by debt, and the property, when it resells, is probably not going to hold a ton of value, so they've got to sell it quickly in order to get any kind of real value out of it. And the kids are impoverished, so they each, the youngest is at a boys' school, the eldest is an actor, and they don't make any money, and the middle is a girl. The youngest and the eldest are boys. The middle is a girl, and she has managed to get a job with a Canadian. Takes place in English. She's managed to get a job with a Canadian news agency that feeds articles to Canada, Canadian newspapers. So she's got a fairly okay job, and it pays okay, but it is not going to give her any real quality of life. She's gonna survive. So when this inheritance comes forward, the 3 of them decide that they would like to band together, and they've rented a cottage. And the young girl in the Sophia, she kind of gets caught in the middle because Harry, the actor, just wants to live the life of Riley. He has no financial sense. He's mostly about the parties. He wants to have an actor's life. He's really captivated by anyone who admires him. So he sets himself up in such a way as to be always admired. And Francis, the youngest, he's about 16, but this is taking place in the 30s. He's decided to leave school and get a job. His uncle helps him get a job. And Francis's main goal is to get a girlfriend. Harry provides the girls. It's not like a sex thing. It's just entertainment. And so Harry and Francis decide that, the cottage is a great place to entertain. And Sophia is stuck with providing the wherewithal for the food, the drinks, the cleanup, the setup, da-da-da-da-da. She's just kind of, the events organizer. She's not having fun. Neither was I. That's all this book was about. And I went pretty far. I got as far as page 225 and thought the main character, Sophie, she doesn't want a ton in life. She just wants to be comfortable and orderly and I guess secure. I think security for her is a big thing. The other 2 are just more about living in the moment. What Sophia doesn't do, as what happened in Flora in the Cold Comfort Inn, she's not a manipulator. She's an endurer, and so we don't see the same kind of machinations in order to get her own way. She just keeps on going on. And the book is about what the groceries cost, and what the coal costs, and what the rent costs, and what the party costs, and then the parties are boring. And I've said this in other books, if the characters are bored, chances are really good that the reader is bored. And I think that's what's happening with Sophie. She's bored out of her mind, and so was I. And I just thought, I don't see how she's going to change anything. She hasn't enacted anything in her thinking or in her behavior in order to get things to go the way she wants them to go, which is to get the guys to just cool it and to be a little more sensible and to get a decent night's sleep. So I gave up. The other two books that are not in the library, perhaps I can get them at the university library. Oh my goodness, she's got way more than 4 books here. My gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. She's got 15 books. I had no idea. I think I went on to Goodreads and did my research, and I think Goodreads only had 4 books. Anyhow, I'm going to give her one more shot, and this was based on the author's life for about 2 years. I don't know whether Mom and Dad in Stella Gibbons's lives were as they are portrayed in here. It doesn't say on the back, but she and her brothers did spend a couple of years in a cottage, and yeah, that's what this is. So, I don't know. Where did Stella Gibbons get her material? If this is what she's having to live with, it's like, oh, that's unfortunate. That's not even entertaining enough to say, oh, I can draw upon that in my writing life. So the book that I had 0 expectations about was a middle grade book. And once again, it comes to the rescue. The cover is a bit hard to see. It's called The Iron-Hearted Violet by Kelly Barnhill. And it has a dragon on the front. That's why I picked it up. And I walked into the library and I was just feeling really, kind of down in the dumps, and said to the librarian, I'm just looking for something to cheer me up. I chose the wrong librarian to ask. She goes, I don't know anything about middle readers. I don't know anything about those 10 shelves over there. You're on your own. No, she was way more helpful than that. But basically, it was the two of us just kind of wandering around the shelves going, oh, this could work. Oh, this could work. So I ended up putting back everything that she chose because she was very much into sports books, and I'm not. So I tucked those all back nice and neatly and found myself a dragon. So we've got Princess Violet, who is plain, somewhat on the, a bit ugly. She's a bit reckless. She's a tomboy. She just doesn't meet the standards of a beautiful princess. And her mom is going through a health crisis and eventually dies, and Violet thinks it's her fault. And her dad, before Violet was even born, has a preoccupation with dragons, and they think they found the last surviving dragon. So Dad takes off, even though Mom's been hiding just how sick she is. So the queen dies, the king goes off, gets this dragon, comes back, discovers his wife is dead, and the story really takes off. And there is a forbidden book that tells the genesis story of this kingdom, and in it the gods of this world have captured inside this book is the bad guy. And as people become less and less attuned to the gods, then this bad god is becoming slightly more powerful, just enough to make their voice heard, but not to escape. And so he manages to get Violet towards his book, and Violet opens the book and things start to happen. So Violet has to solve her own problems. She's got a really fun childhood friend called, is it Bartimus? Bartholomew? Demetrius. Oh my God. He has got the capacity, as do a lot of citizens in the kingdom, to hear the voices of the animals, and so they are much more in tune with the horses, and it's one of the reasons why it's such a successful kingdom, is that they've got this empathetic kind of communications going on. And so it's just a successful kingdom. And there's another king up the hill who's like, I want that too, but I don't want to do the work. And so there's a war going on. The dragon is captured, comes into the life of Violet and Demetrius, and there are just a lot of fun elements that come together in this book. And the evil entity is has got insidious power. So we don't have that kind of evil person in a cape who's running around creating mayhem. We've got this voice, this insidious sort of subterranean voice that affects people's moods, and in the course of affecting their moods, it affects decision making, and so we end up with sort of a cascade of decisions that are not going to be good for the kingdom. And the king is completely obsessed with either the dragon or the fact that his wife has died. And so there's magic, of course, and there's fantasy, and there's no gore. That's always good in a book. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to, because I don't know, just the inside flap was just not as well written as the book. And it came at a good time, and I quite, oh, there's also illustrations. The book came at a time when I really needed to pick me up, and I was reading Enbury Hill and Playground at the same time, and just, not being really amazed by that. And so many times, I've said this so many times on this station, that if you really want to pick me up, go find a good middle grade book. There's plot, there's character, there's pacing, there's imagination, there's emotion, but it's singular in the sense that the character is there aren't so many inputs that the character becomes completely overwhelmed by anxiety and you're like needing 3 different kinds of psychologists to get them through a day. It's just always a pleasure to read. I know that there are weak ones out there, but generally I bring to you good ones. Trust me. All right. I think that's it for me today. I think for November, I'm going to really try and tackle the books behind me, because there's a couple of books in there that I kind of held back on for one reason or another, and they're chomping at the bit. They're going, read me! So I think that's what I'm going to do in November, is try and read some of those books back there. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week. Ta-da-da! Bye-bye.